Hi everyone. This is the second of the recorded lectures that I'm putting on the website. This is not a speech. I have not rehearsed this. It's just some thoughts that I have. I do have some notes in front of me that I want to speak from, but this is more of what you would get if we were in class and I was doing a lecture. I wish that we were in class and I was doing a lecture. I really enjoy getting to know each of you. I enjoyed your introduction videos. I really wish that we had a chance to get to know each other in person, but that's not the case, so we'll make the best of the situation in the online course. And please excuse, my cat is running around like crazy in the background. Every time I've tried to record this 3 times, and there apparently is something about me talking to the computer that upsets her, so please excuse that. I really enjoyed your introductory speeches, as I said, and I thought you did a great job. A lot of you really went to great pains, I think, to organize your material, to introduce yourself. I like the conclusions that some of you had. And again, when you're doing a speech, remember, you don't just stop talking. The speech needs to conclude somehow. So you need to either sum up what you said or tell a story or thank people for listening. Some of you said I look forward to listening to your speeches, so I really liked that. While I applaud the use of editing, I didn't mark off for it and I won't mark off for it, but I do encourage you to try to avoid editing your speeches for one main reason. This is a course to try to get you comfortable talking in front of groups. Obviously, when you're in front of a group, you can't say, oh, time out, wait a minute, I'm starting over. You have to go with it. So I would really rather you try to do it in one shoot rather than try to edit things together. Now, of course, you may record 2 or 3 or 15 different versions, which is okay because that counts as practice. But I really think it will help you future in dealing with situations where you are actually in front of a group if you try to do it in one take. Okay, let's talk a little bit about anxiety because several of you mentioned that. Although I really thought that you covered your nervousness very well in most cases. I didn't, in fact, a couple of you said you were really nervous, but you didn't really appear to be. People are a lot more forgiving than I think we give them credit for being. Usually when you're giving a speech, what the person is actually thinking is, thank goodness it's him or her up there and not me. So I think we tend to believe people are judging us a lot more than they really are. Believe me, when you get to be my age, you realize that the saying, don't sweat the small stuff and it's all small stuff, really is true. So people don't care as much about, they're not judging you as much as perhaps we think they are sometimes. Okay, one thing, do try to watch your grammar and pronunciation. Now, I grew up in Greene County myself, and it's something that I have to be aware of from time to time. You don't have to sound like the Queen and enunciate everything so properly. In fact, I want you to be yourself. But you do need to think about things like using correct grammar, using correct pronunciation. Try to work on the accents from time to time. Now, do not let this contribute to your anxiety. If it makes you more nervous, work on it at another time. But that's just, again, this is just sort of a tip for future reference because I am trying to help you get comfortable speaking in front of groups and do a good job when you're in front of a group. I think one of the things that can help you reduce your anxiety is to really focus on your audience. What kind of audience do you have? What do you think they'll be interested in? If I were asked to give a speech to a group of 16-year-olds on, say, planning for retirement or caring for aging parents, that would be very difficult because I would have to really research and try to find ways to make a topic that I doubt many of them would be very interested in right now. Make it interesting. So maybe I'd have to come up with some statistics or some stories or quotations or something that would get them interested in the topic. But I do think if you think about your audience, it also helps you become a little less anxious. And again, I cannot stress strongly enough, getting comfortable with your information. practice it, know what you're going to say. Your first 45 seconds of your speech will probably be your most nervous. So if you can get really, really comfortable with that, you should be able to just flow into the rest of your speech after that. Okay, your next speech is the informative speech. And that is just as it says, it's a speech to give people information about something. Maybe it's something that you're an expert on. Maybe you've taken piano lessons for 20 years, or you're a karate expert, or you've read every book that you could find on interpreting dreams. Whatever it is that you want to inform people about, you're just giving people information so that they can make a decision. Do they want to follow up on this topic? For example, if I were going to give a speech, an informative speech on setting up a home aquarium, I might start out by saying, "Good afternoon, my name is Mickey Barbley, and I'm going to speak to you today about setting up a home aquarium. I've had my own aquarium for about 20 years now, and there's just very peaceful and relaxing to come home and watch the fish calmly swimming around at the end of the day." And then go into information about aquarium. For example, I might say, according to Aquaria.com, a good rule of thumb is 1 inch of fish per 1 gallon of water. Notice, I gave you the source for my fact, and then I gave you the fact. I didn't say, the rule of thumb is 1 inch of fish per 1 gallon of water. I got that from Aquaria.com. Try to work in your references, your source material. Try to work that into the speech instead of saying, "I got that from." Because again, it chops the speech up. It doesn't flow very well. Now, in an informative speech, I'm giving you information. So I may tell you the positives about setting up an aquarium, but at the same time, I may decide to tell you some of the negatives. Fish can be expensive. Fish die. Fish can kill each other. I could tell you the story about how when my husband was in the hospital and I came home and my filter had gotten clogged up, and instead of the water going through the filter, it went over the back of the filter. And so I come home from visiting my husband in the hospital and I have to tear down a 38-gallon aquarium because there's water everywhere. I had to take the aquarium completely apart, vacuum up all the water, let the carpet dry before I could set it back up. So I wouldn't tell you that if I'm trying to persuade you, which is the last speech. I'm trying to persuade you to set up a home aquarium. I only give you all the basic, all the fun things, all the good things. I don't tell you any of the negatives because I'm trying to convince you to do this. Okay, the persuasive speech. With the persuasive speech, you're trying to convince your audience to come around to your way of thinking on something. So you only present facts that support your point of view. For example, if I'm giving a speech on why you shouldn't text and drive, I wouldn't say, "I just found this research that says actually texting makes you a better driver." That's not true, by the way. I just made that up. Texting does not make you a good driver. Do not text and drive. It's very dangerous. But I wouldn't tell you that. I'm only giving you information that supports my point of view. Okay, one big tip with a persuasive speech. Obviously, that's not going to be a factor in this speech because you're not in front of a group. If you were ever in a situation where you have to give a persuasive speech in front of a group of people, really think about your audience. Reason being, if you give a persuasive speech on something like why you should eat healthy, why you should drink more water, why you should exercise more, those are pretty non-controversial topics. You really aren't going to find people who are going to sit there and go, "I think you should not eat healthy. I think you should drink a lot of soft drinks." So you're not going to run into that. But you can run into situations that maybe you're not prepared for. Example, had a student once giving a persuasive speech. She starts out her speech, actually it's a really strong introduction, but it backfired on her because she said she was giving her speech, she was anti-capital punishment. So she started off her speech by saying, "How many people in this room are against capital punishment? Raise your hand." No one raised their hand. I was sitting near her and I could see her hand actually start to shake because she thought she was giving the speech in front of an audience that totally agreed with her, And instead, she was giving it wasn't a hostile audience, but it was hostile in point of view that she was giving an opinion that the audience did not agree with. Now, I actually had someone who was a member of the debate club in one of my classes, and he came up to me with his persuasive speech, and he said, I want to give a speech that'll really get everybody mad, that I think will really tick everybody off. Is that okay? And I said, if it's okay with you, it's fine with me. And he had a good time, and at the end of his speech, he actually said, I don't believe any of this. I just wanted to get you guys all riled up. And he really did have, I wish I could remember what the topic was, but he really did have everyone all riled up at the end of the speech. So if you're ever in a situation like that, I can give you one other example. You would think, excuse me, my chair is squeaking, you would think that a subject like organ donation, why you should be an organ donor, would be a really non-controversial topic. I had a young lady in class give her speech on why you should be an organ donor, and it turned out her sister had actually received a liver. And so she was very pro-organ donation. So she gave a very good speech. At the end of the speech, a gentleman, an older student who was taking class, said, you know, that was a really good speech, and I understand why you feel the way you do, and I'm glad your sister's okay. But I'm convinced that doctors let my wife die because they wanted to harvest her organs, and so I'm very anti-organ donation. So you never know what attitudes people might have. So if you ever have to give a persuasive speech in a situation like that, really think about your audience and maybe what their thoughts might be on a particular topic. In both your informative and your persuasive speeches, you need to, at some point, state a fact, a quotation, or a statistic. Anytime you state a fact, quotation, or statistic, you need to cite the source. You cannot tell me in a speech, 75% of people think that, and then just go with it. No, you have to say, according to whereigotmyfacts.com, 75% of people believe that. So you have to give me some sort of source for it. Now, for your last two speeches, your informative and your persuasive, at the end of your outline, I want 3 sources. Where did you get information for this speech? Now, you may say, wait a minute, I'm giving my speech on playing the piano, and I've just played for a million years, taken lessons ever since I was a child. That's okay, but you need to maybe go to a website and find out what percentage of Americans know how to play the piano, or what age do people typically take up the piano. You need to go to at least 3 sources for your speech, for your informative and for your persuasive speeches, and then you need to list them in sort of a bibliography at the end of your speech. Okay, I hope this helps. If you have specific questions about just how I can help you get more comfortable in front of a group, what I can do, I'd be happy to do another video. I hope these are helpful. As I said, these are sort of the kind of things that I talk about when I lecture in a speech class, and I'm sorry that I don't get to see you in person because I really enjoyed watching your speeches. And I'm really I'm really looking forward to your next 2 speeches, especially the informative speech, because I get to see really what you're interested in, what your passions are. And I always learn something every year. Someone comes up with a topic that I know absolutely nothing about, which is another reason that I really enjoy teaching speech and listening to the speeches. So I look forward to your speeches. Please let me know if you have any questions, and have a great day.